Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Critical Dialogue right here with yours truly, Ronald Smith, along with Andrew Crawley. How you doing there, sir?
Hey, what's going on, doctor?
Wonderful, wonderful, man. Hey, this is a lovely Tuesday that God has made, and we're going to rejoice and be glad in it. We got a great show tonight, okay? Hey, Politics and Faith, Part 2. Okay, all right. And, yeah, we're going to have a debate on here for sure. Those in the 3rd District of Hampton Roads, the 3rd Republican Congressional District. And we have 2 candidates that are on here that we're going to introduce to you in a little bit. But first and foremost, just want to get some things out the way. So I want to give shout outs to definitely our sponsor there, Spectrum. All right, contact Patricia if you would like to get in contact with her for sure. Get that bundle right there. All right, $99. Want to thank her for her sponsorship, as well as again for his artists out here. All right, the Rain for Real. Make sure you definitely go check him out. Go download his music and things like that if you're into Christian hip hop and R&B flavor for the Savior. All right. Also, Music Industry Makeover. This is what this show is sponsored by. It's the umbrella company for Critical Dialogue. So go and check us out if you're looking for marketing and promotions as an artist. That's what we do. But we're more than just music. Hey, authors as well. We have different podcasts like this one here, Music Industry Makeover, on Thursday nights, as well as we have a couple more in the box and the sound sessions, along with the 21st Century Authors podcast, dealing with book authors like my man Andrew Crawley, who is a book author as well. And so he'll be giving you some information on that too. And if you'd like to be a supporter of what we do, hey, you want to sow $2 into us, feel free. All right. We would definitely love to go to the next level, whatever it is that God has for us. You know, this is not we're not twisting your arm or anything. We just say, if you want to freely give, we will definitely take your donations for sure. Okay, so I believe that's all I have. Okay, Andrew, go ahead on and take it away. Hey, because yes, that book, The New Age Vernacular. Yes, you definitely need to go get that.
Yes.
I
was just gonna go ahead and let the people know we inviting you. I just want to go ahead and say, listen, y'all, as time goes on, as the weeks pass, the further we get along in this book, it gets tighter, more dissonance comes. So what we're going to do this week, this Friday, we're going to discuss Jesus hung out with sinners. What does that really mean? Normally, when you hear that from people, whether it be media, whether it be Christians, or even preachers, are they using it in a way that is sound according to Scripture? So that's what we're going to be talking about. Jesus hung out with sinners. Did he really? You know what I'm saying? Are we really too? Do we hang out? Do we just be around? Do we be buddies? Do we have best friends with sinners? That's what we're going to be talking about this Friday as we discuss chapter 5 in my brand new book, The New Age Vernacular. If you haven't gotten it, you need to go and get it. It's available on Amazon.com. It's available on Lulu.com. More importantly, it is available on my website, AndrewCrawleyJr.com. So that's what we're going to be. Be in the place this Friday live, and we encourage your questions and your comments. So given that topic, we are expecting to have quite a bit of engagement with the guests who are watching. So y'all be right there.
Awesome. Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, without further ado, we're going to definitely bring on our candidates. Running for the 3rd Congressional Republican District here in Hampton Roads area, and I've never met this brother, but just from talking with him, very much so. He seems like someone who's solid leadership for our country, as well as for anything else. I want to welcome Mr. Madison Downs back to the program. How you doing there, sir?
How you doing, sir? Thank you for having me back on.
Welcome back, sir. Thank you for lending your time to us this evening.
Yes.
Thank you for the invite.
Awesome. And we have another gentleman. This is his first time actually being on Critical Dialogue. Again, I've never met him before, but he's running for the 2nd District here in Hampton Roads area. And we want to welcome to Critical Dialogue Mr. Jarome Bell.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
No
Thanks
problem.
for coming on with us, Mr. Bell.
Welcome. Yes, and we're going to take your questions and comments. And Jarome, you invited a person named Don here on.
I told him click. It was an accident. I actually just wanted him to watch the show. But Don is here. Okay, so
all right.
I just invited him to watch the show.
All right. Okay. Well, hey.
Come on, Don.
Hey. Yeah. Don, hey.
He's a buddy from mine from North Carolina, man. He's a great guy. he actually supports my campaign. He's a great follower of my campaign. A very, very good friend of mine, him and his wife.
Okay, beautiful.
So what part of North Carolina is Don from in?
Clayton.
Clayton. Okay, yeah, I'm in Greensboro.
Yeah. That's
right
where my son goes to school at, man. My son goes to Greensboro College.
That's right up, that's right up the street from me. Yeah, got some ties with Greensboro College, absolutely.
Okay.
Man, yeah, my wife graduated from A&T there, got a master's.
Whoop, whoop. Come on. Another A&T alumni in the house.
That's right down the street.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Kente, Mr. Rhodes, Stephen Rhodes, thank y'all so much for watching. Also, if you're in the watch party on the Facebook side from my page, you are more than welcome to leave your questions and your comments tonight. We want to make sure we check back with you guys periodically to see. So the engagement is welcome on tonight. So leave your comment, leave your question, and we're going to see if we can try the best we can to get to yours. Thank y'all so much for watching. Hey,
Katie, how you doing? Thank you so much for joining in. All right. Well, hey, we were supposed to have two other gentlemen on this show. This is the first official debate for the 3rd district. And so, but unfortunately, the other two gentlemen, for crazy reasons, and I'll just say that they pretty much backed out. Okay. And I don't mind calling a spade, but there was a video. And first, I want to give shout outs to Duke White, who helped pretty much set this up. Thank you so much, sir. He put out a video promoting this debate tonight. And so what it was is that they felt that the video was offensive and it didn't represent them and it didn't represent the party. So they pretty much reneged. And also there was things said about me for as being anti-Semitic in some posts that I had posted about the president. It was one post basically comparing him to Jim Jones, which I did not create, but I thought it was funny. And so I'm just like, they thought that was being anti-Trump or that I hated Republicans. And so I'm not even a Republican. I'm not even a Democrat. Okay. But I'm all for the person who is fit for the job, whether male or female. And so I'm just like, okay, we have that right of freedom of speech. So to say that, which is kind of crazy, if you want to lead a people, but you're afraid to talk to them, especially Black people, then you're really not fit to be a leader at all, basically, pretty much. And from my understanding, I'm new to Virginia, but it's like that. What majority of the 3rd district is African American? Am I correct on that, Madison?
Yes. The majority of the 3rd district is a majority African American and a majority minority. So basically, what we have is the other two candidates backed out, and basically they don't have a message for the minority community. And that's the bottom line to it. There's no reason to back out of any debate, official debate. And this is the first official debate that was sanctioned by the 3rd district, by the district chair. To me, a moderator that basically is neutral insofar as you're not a Democrat, you're an independent. I mean, no skin in the game. So,
right.
If you got a message, you put it out there. If you got a plan for, the various different communities that are in the 3rd district, then you talk about, your policies and your plan, and you put that forth, and you allow the people to decide what is going to be good for them. Exactly.
And that's all that we were going to do here tonight. But unfortunately, they felt this was an attack on them, which apparently then, it's an old saying, what offends you reveals you. Okay. So again, I'm not calling you racist or whatever. I'm just I like to call a spade. And so it's very unfortunate, but it's your loss. And no, you definitely would not get my vote for sure, because I don't want no coward leaders, representing me, bottom line. So we're going to take your questions and comments for those who are who are watching on that. If you are in these districts, that you can ask these candidates. They're not running against each other. I'm sorry, they're in separate districts. Okay. So again, and we also want to salute you gentlemen as well too, for serving your country serving our country, because we would not have these liberties if you did not help serve. So thank you for your service.
Ron, we got an important question already in the watch party.
Oh, we do. All right.
Yeah, Conrad asked. He said, "Is that a Baker Mayfield jersey?"
It absolutely it is, man. That's right. That's right. That's it, bro.
I like the colors, but you know where it's at. It's the Chiefs, baby, all day.
Okay.
All day, every day.
Go Browns, right? Okay.
Go Browns, baby. That's right.
So I guess we want to go ahead on and get started, and so I guess we're going to pose the questions to both of you all as well. All right. So, and again, this is a non-biased platform. All right. And that was one of the excuses for not coming on as well too. Okay. So I guess we'll start with you, Madison. Since the 3rd District is home to 2 major naval shipyards and strong military presence, what is your plan to ensure that our Navy maintains the necessary strength and readiness?
Well, currently the Navy is deficient in regards to fleet management. We have a requirement to build and operate somewhere around 355 vessels. Right now, I think we're sitting at around 300 or something like that. We need to be able to send money. I know the president wants at least 350 naval ships. And what's happened is we've had to divert money away from the rebuilding the infrastructure for the shipyard. So we need to put money into the shipyard insofar as restructuring. We also need to make sure that we are creating an atmosphere and giving opportunities for people to be able to man the positions, the job opportunities within the shipyard. And that has been a problem. We've had to spend extra money migrating people into certain positions from out of state, where we could be promoting job skills training through whether it be high school or apprenticeship programs, whereby people who are natives can fill those positions. We know that there is currently an operation underway whereby the Army is actually working. Most people don't realize that the Army has more ships or more boats than the Navy. And so what we need to do is be able to put a program and a plan together, and that's what I plan on doing, to make sure that we can facilitate a negotiation between the Army and the Navy, whereby they can transfer many of those boats over. That would bring down the cost for taxpayers insofar as placing more money into the areas of building nuclear ships, which is what we need. We need to be able to make sure that we maintain the most deadly fighting force in the world. And unfortunately, over the course of the last couple of years, we've had to take money away from doing that as opposed to pushing money through it. It's a huge area insofar as the economy is concerned in our area. So we need to make sure that we are promoting job opportunities for infrastructure in that area. So,
all right. Awesome. Now, it mentioned the 3rd District. Does that affect you as well, Jarome?
Well, it affects me because I have all of the bases mainly in my district. We have, Oceana, we have Little Creek, we have NOB, we have Fort Story. So most of the bases fall under my cognizance. The naval shipyards are in District 3. So having a strong Navy, like Madison was talking about, is definitely drives our economy, especially here in the 2nd District and in Hampton Roads as a whole. The military drives the economy. So we have to make sure that we don't go through another sequestration process, right, like we did between 2008 and 2016, where ships left home, ported here, they went down to Florida, they went out to San Diego, California. So we need to maintain our ships and be able to keep our strength here on the East Coast, and that's here in the 2nd District, and being able to maintain them strongly in the 3rd with the shipyards.
Okay, awesome. All right, there was one question I said I was going to start out with, or so, and because this being a Christian show, that we tackle issues through a biblical worldview. That's why we call it critical dialogue. We just put it out there. So I know, and I think we've asked you this before, Madison. As a man of faith or whatever it is that you believe in, and you're going to lead people who may not believe the same as you, how important is it to have faith in politics or as a leader or pretty much in that leadership role? Will that affect a lot of your decision making?
I think it's an individual thing. For me, I am a man of faith, so my faith guides me in many of the things, many of my actions, words, and deeds. So I think that it makes up the core of a man or a woman who is a person of faith. Now that doesn't mean that people aren't going to make mistakes or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But the careful thing, there is a separation between church and state. So, interestingly enough, there was a dialogue I had on Facebook with a constituent, and she was quoting scriptures, and our perspective on and interpretation on scriptures are a little different, and that's okay. But I think that insofar as a person's faith is concerned, it is a compass, and it does lead one insofar as morally a lot of decisions that they make. However, being in a leadership position, and understanding that there are Christians, Jews, Muslims, you have to be able to separate your personal faith from what is legislation when it comes to doing your job. So, but I think that given the fact that we are a Judeo-Christian nation, and that basically the three major faiths between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all basically worship the same, come from Abraham, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of commonalities there. So there are always places where we can find common ground. Now, the most important thing, the most important takeaway from all of this is the ability to be able to separate one's personal feelings from the job itself. And so, okay.
Okay, beautiful.
I want to, let me chime in because, well, for one, there's where we are today, and this is one of the reasons why I do the work that I do. It is a shame that sometimes we equate prevalence with normal, and a lot of times we go as the world goes. So now it's a fad to, I guess, have the ability, or what we think the perceived ability, to really tell and make the scriptures however we like. Mm-hmm. And so I was going. I'm just going back to the testimony that Madison gave about he and I think you said a young lady was having some discrepancies, I guess, in the translation, or how you all did how y'all did the scripture, and that just pricked me because like this seems to be like, I guess, the mindset everywhere, and I don't even know what you all were talking about, what you're doing, but just with the concept of how we translate or how we see scripture, that seems to be a cultural norm to where we feel like, well, it's okay if you see scripture differently the way I see it. And when it comes to true Christianity, that's actually very dangerous, because there's one true translation of scripture, even though there are areas in scripture that are gray and are left open for us to be like, well, if it's days of worship, diets, and different stuff like that, those are left up to the individual, or, what I'm saying, because like the Bible says in Romans chapter 14, to every man he rises or falls, yet to his own master. You know what I'm saying? So there are definitely liberties where we can see, but not so much as we as American people like to think. Not only that, it's very new age to say everybody has the freedom, I guess, to interpret the Bible as you will. Really, what we're saying in essence is that everybody, you get to be able to pick and choose whatever it is you want to do and how you see scripture, and that has become, what I'm saying, problematic. And I'm just talking about just from the standpoint that whatever arena we in, whether it be politics or whatever, now we got into the place to whereas we allow, I guess, our mindset to bleed into it, to where it be like, okay, well, if that's your translation, that's fine. And so what happens is, and I'm just talking about even in church now, sadly, even amongst Christian leaders, we kind of be like, well, let's just leave it at that instead of really, for those who are willing to get to the bottom, of foundational teaching.
Well, let
Okay.
me just say this last piece. I was a professor of theology in college, and so I'm used to having that sort of a dialogue. And it's okay to have a difference of opinion. The issue is, can we find common ground? But it's still the takeaway is, insofar as the area of politics and the separation of church and state, we have to understand that we are representatives of all people. So oftentimes we have to put our personal feelings on the back burner.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, no. I was in. Yeah, that was representing all people would be different than yielding to all people, and that's something that we discussed even the last time that you were on the show. Because a lot of times, even when we say that in a new age way to think that gives us the freedom to yield to all people. Governing all people is different from yielding to all people, because and again, that's what we are. Even whether we like to admit it or not, that's where America is today. America has lost its moral fabric because it has an identity as a whole. Because why? You lose who you are trying to please everybody. And the thing about it is that like I said, the foundation of America, when you look back over it, even as recent as the last 4 or 5 decades, America has they're trying to figure out how can we encompass all of this, because we are supposed to be the melting pot, this, that, and the third. And it becomes problematic, not just for religion, not just for politics, but now we're seeing in other walks of life.
Hey, let's let Jarome answer that question real quick, and then we want to get into these questions so as well. All right, go ahead, Jarome.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I can add to that is that, when my life is governed by my values, is governed by my Christian values, is governed by my conservative values as well. And so, but in office, like Madison said, there is a separation of church and state. So my values may not be what's best for the people as a whole in the 2nd District when it comes to legislation, or when it comes to legislating for the nation, because really that's what we'll be doing. Not only will we be representing our districts, we'll also be representing the nation as a whole. And that's Black, white, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, that's the whole spectrum. So, my values may not be someone else's as far as religion goes. And, that's what we have to separate and do what's best for the people as a whole.
All right, well said. All right, we're gonna go to Tim Hayes. Okay, all right.
Now, because somebody asked a question that definitely would have raised some rings.
Do you want me to put that question up there? I had put it. I had text you in the private chat by Catherine. So, well, again. We'll come back to it. Let's go to what Tim says here. Okay, to both candidates, this race has become an issue. How will you work to bring diverse population together for a common goal that is very different view than the current member of the House, Bobby Scott? What is your plan to develop and nurture relations between differing peoples, and well stated on how we maintain our Navy and our local workforce? So we'll start with you, Jarome, on that one.
Well, I don't have any issues. I haven't had any issues with race per se, in my race. And I was in the Navy for 27 years. I've traveled all over the world. I've worked with all types of diverse people, Black, white, Filipino, Asian, whatever, across the spectrum. So I've never had an issue with race and in my life at all. I mean, yes, those are you have those people, like I'm being sort of attacked now, because I put out a truth fact-based video about one of my opponents and why he's not fit for the job any longer. So people come to me saying, but I don't think it's racial. I think it's more, they like that guy and they don't think, how I should be campaigning or whatever. Everybody always tell you how you should do something and they've never even done it. So I don't think in my district, I haven't had any issues with race per se, but I know, racial tones exist between white conservatism and the Black or Democratic Party and conservatism. So that's where, my focus is going to be to bridge that gap between, the conservatives in both parties and both races to unify against, the Democrats and the establishment GOP, because both of them are bad for the people.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, Madison, go ahead.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and had some dialogue with several people regarding this particular issue. In my district, it is a predominantly black district. So, there's a huge trust issue with minorities and the Republican Party, primarily the way in which the message is being or has been being conveyed insofar as conservative values. Also, I think that as of late, there has been somewhat of a misnomer regarding uh, the term insofar as terminology when you equate conservatism. It is almost becoming synonymous in certain circles with white. I say that because what that does is it causes division, and it causes a certain amount of disenfranchisement. In my particular race, congressional race, there has been a certain amount of vitriol, and we need to get rid of it. And I've been thinking a lot about it because I believe that I'm the person who will be able to do that. So what I have been doing is I have been speaking to people all over the district, no matter if they're white or black or Filipino or whatever they may be, in order to convey our policies, our morals, and our values in a manner that would meet people exactly where they are in their station in life. When you go in one area, you may have the same perspective or the same goal or end game, but you have to convey the message in a certain way. And that way may be different in, say, Newport News versus Isle of Wight, And one of the things that we have to consider is the fact that one area is not more important than the other. And I think that the whole race piece and people feeling disenfranchised, because it's not just black people that feel disenfranchised, it's also white people that feel disenfranchised. And so what we have been working hard to do is to try to bring all people together. Now, sometimes we do a good job at that, and other times we've had some struggle. And, I think that a lot of that has to do with there's a small section of people who basically have an older mindset. And that's a mindset that I did not grow up with. It is a mindset that probably is more reminiscent of something that is back from the 60s and 70s, but it's a less progressive mindset insofar as where the Republican Party is trying to get to. And what we are trying to do is to be all inclusive and to grow the party while at the same time espousing conservative morals, values, and things of that nature. And so a prime example of doing that is my showing up on the show. And this is the first or the second time, because I was on your show before.
Right.
This is the second time that there was a large audience of a diverse group of people. The majority of the times that I've spoken has been in with an audience that was primarily Caucasian. And I think it's important that you have a representative or a messenger who is comfortable speaking to people no matter what they are, who they are, or where they are. And I believe that I am the only candidate that can do that. Insofar as our values and morals are concerned, they are universal insofar as allowing and teaching people how to come away from being dependent upon a big government. These morals, values, our policies. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. And that's a very good answer right there. Hey, Andrew, is there anybody in the watch party that has a question?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we do have one. Let me bring it up. He says, Conrad says, question for both candidates. I live in Virginia Beach, so Jarome could represent me. Does DC have a significant role in helping to fund fixes for our flooding issues. And then Katie said, Haley Smith, you're welcome. So that's it.
All right, yeah, go ahead, Jarome, answer that.
Yeah, as far as flooding issues here in Virginia Beach, there is federal funding that comes out of DC. You know, there's something called an appropriations committee in DC, and they appropriate funds nationwide. You know, so that's where those compromises come in. You know, with members of House and with the member of Senate to approve the funding for anything that goes nationwide. So if Madison was in the 3rd district, he may or may not vote to appropriate funds for the 2nd district flooding problem because he may have some other issue, you know, or people from the 5th or from the 8th, you know, and that's nationwide, who's ever sitting on those appropriation committees. So yes, but to answer your question, Conrad, yes, money will and can come out of DC as a whole to help the federal to help the flooding program in Virginia Beach. And to my knowledge, there has been federal funding submitted into the 2nd district for that problem.
Okay.
I think it's important that the representatives from the second, 3rd, and 4th to be able to work together, given the fact that we all share ground. You know, so it's important that, and I agree with what Jarome has said, you know, insofar, you know, as his plan for remedying that situation. I think that when you are considering candidates and things of that nature, you want to make sure that, you know, because, you know, the 2nd and the 3rd, we are neighbors, you know, that the candidates are closely aligned insofar as their policies and procedures are concerned.
Okay, awesome. Again, we're going to take your questions and comments or so. I'm seeing some on here that I don't think is really appropriate or so. And again, you know, we're not here to bash, or, you know, we're just here to ask questions, you know, concerning your district, and let's be respectful to the 2 candidates, whether, you know, you like them or not. All right. And then for us, you know, as Republicans, you know, you know how most Black folks feel about Republicans, you know, right, or the Republican Party. You know, what is it that you could say that could to give them a second look at wanting, not maybe even becoming a Republican, but or is voting for the person, you know what I'm saying, other than just the party?
Yeah. Go ahead, Madison, you can answer that first. Go ahead.
Sure. You know, I think if you look at what's going on in 3rd, it's a real litmus test. It's a real opportunity to take a look at how the race is going, the politics that are taking place, so on and so forth. Insofar as Black folk are concerned, you know, we have traditionally voted Democrat, basically. You know, if you're talking about New Age, not going back to the 30s, we know that's what it started. But basically, after LBJ signed the you know, civil rights, civil rights bill. All right, and Martin Luther King made a statement that he was going to vote Democrat. As a result, a lot of Black folks switched over to Democrat. Now, later on, what happened was he made a statement that he feared that he had led his people into a burning house. Here I come in the 3rd district, and I have a pretty decent following, and I am posed with some of the same questions in regard to, you know, I know that a lot of Black folk will, you know, vote for me. That lead, you know, I'm going to lead them perhaps into or back to the Republican Party. The things that we need to look at is the opportunities that the Republican Party espouses. And those are the opportunity to come away from dependence from government. Programs whereby our children can get a better education, not just to go to college, but also to get a skill set, whereby they can actually come out and earn a living wage, and from there, put themselves in a position where they can compete anywhere in the world, let alone in the 3rd district. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what we're faced with now is, in the face of progress and new opportunities, getting smacked in the face with certain blatant racism. So one of the things that we have to look at in that regard is, whenever there is progress, there's always going to be an adversary. There's always some sort of an adversarial force, especially when you're moving forward and progressing towards something that is good. So insofar as opportunities for a people, and not just Black folk, but all people across the district, what you want to do is look at the policies that the individual is bringing. Bobby Scott basically has taken away opportunities from people in the 3rd district. Students are graduating and winding up on street corners. Students are disenfranchised in school. There are less opportunities for people to go out and earn jobs and find jobs. The economy has stayed stagnant over the last 15, 20 years. Industry, there has been no industry that basically has come in, new industry. Opportunities for new jobs, stagnant. Teachers, students become disenfranchised because they don't see teachers that look like them. All these things, you have to look at the totality of the individual and the totality of the individual's experience and what they can actually bring to the table. If they want to stay stagnant, vote for the same old, and you'll get the same old. If we're ready to move forward, they'll vote for Madison Downs.
Awesome. All right. Yes, go ahead,
I think I saw, and Jamal, you can probably insert this in your answer too, Jamal.
Answer that question, and then we'll go to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I say is that people on both sides are tired of politicians. Okay, they want fighters, they want outsiders, they want people that can represent them, that they trust and that they believe in. And so it's about issues. And I tell anybody, don't vote for me because I'm Black. Don't vote for me because I'm Republican. You vote for me because you feel like I'm the best guy with the best issues that meet your criteria and that align with your values, okay? And that my issues, the issues that I'm fighting for are your issues that you want to see fought for. So people need to align themselves with candidates that has their same value structure and issues. So it's really all about issues and less about party to me.
Beautiful. All right. Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, I think that something that Madison had said that he didn't touch on it, but it was great as far as I've seen like where we have gone too far on the other end when he was talking about getting people in the workforce, because a lot of times one of the things that has hurt and is hurting us right now is not preparing people in the workforce. And also too is a good question too to ask that you all could implement this in. I saw it down, I forgot where it was. We have so many comments, but someone said, what is African Americans looking for in a political leader? That was a great question, and I think you all will take the time to answer that, because that's a very good question. But I wanted to say one of the things that is helping the demise of us as a race of people is that higher education is getting more out of the Black community than the Black community is getting out of higher education economically. Why? We get so much student loan debt, and we get the paper that says we graduated with no jobs. And it would be better if we went to school with a vision first, but instead of seeing school as an end, see it to the means of an end. And so therefore, we don't need to pump everybody through a university. Maybe they need to go to a trade school or even be hands-on training somewhere else, because and again, it depends on what you're going for. But what is happening is, by the droves every year, we are graduating people with tons of debt that they will never pay off, and then they don't even get in a job in their field. And that's a major, something that has been going on, and we need to think differently about. And it comes from learning how to instill vision in those that are coming up after us. But it's definitely a major problem, and I think I'm glad that he brought that up. I know he alluded to that, because that's definitely something that's going on.
Yeah, can I piggyback on that for a second? Because you alluded to something about why kids graduate with no jobs. especially like in the STEM fields. And it's because of the legal immigration with these cheap labor, foreign labor programs that we have. We have the H-1Bs, we have the F-1s, we have the H-4Bs, we have the H-2Bs, we have the OPTs, which has no limit. And these programs give these corporations the ability to bring in cheap foreign labor and pay them less than they would have to pay an American worker. Okay, because they don't have to pay all the taxes on these workers like they would an American worker, and they don't have to pay the same wage that they would a college graduate. So they bring in these foreign workers to replace the American worker. That's one of the biggest reasons why our American college graduates, especially in STEM programs, like the IT field, the medical field, the engineering field, they can't find jobs when they get out of college. Is because they're being filled with cheap foreign labor from outside because of these programs that the corporations abuse.
Okay. Again, if you just tune in, welcome to Critical Dialogue. All right. We do this every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have the two candidates that are running for the 2nd and 3rd district here with us. This is the official debate. I know I see some questions on here that are more attacking. And I say to you, no, we're not going to address your questions because the people who were supposed to be here, the ones who you want in office, are too afraid to come and talk to Black folks. So we're not going to give you any space. Now, if you come with an intelligent question other than trying to attack Madison Downs, then yes, again, and that's up to him whether or not he chooses to address it. But
I will say I'm glad that they're doing that because I want all of the people in the 3rd, especially our minority community, to take a good look at what's happening within my campaign. There is that segment of people who have been attacking. They've been, attacking with, race, whatever the case is. And if they're doing that now on your show, other two candidates, they're pretty much supporters for them.
Pretty much,
and we have the evidence to prove all of that, and it's a small group of people. And that's what I want our community to understand, is that my personality and my policies are strong. And when I speak, people listen. And what's happening is there's a small group of people, and I don't want people to mischaracterize the Republican Party for these small simpleton ignoramuses. Okay, it does not characterize who we are. There are many Republicans who share the same values as many people within the Black community. There are plenty of Black Republicans, there are plenty of white Republicans, but by and large, most Black families are conservative by nature. That's just who we are. What we're running into is change. They're afraid that change is going to happen. And the other candidates did not come on the show because they simply do not have a message for the minority communities. It's plain and simple.
Exactly. All right. We have a question here. Simone Henry mentioned about the federal wage. All right. Do you believe that the federal minimum wage should be increased?
Well, to be honest, before 72 with the New Deal, the United States did not have a minimum wage, and we had Black Wall Streets that were thriving.
Yes.
Okay, and most people only recognize the Tulsa Black Wall Street because it was highly televised because of the bombings and the attacks. But we had many Black Wall Streets. There's one right here in Richmond, Virginia, that was thriving during the time where we did not have minimum wage. What minimum wage did when they put in a minimum wage, that actually forced the closures or the shutdowns of a lot of, well, actually all of the Black Wall Streets at that time, because they triple taxed them and they forced them to pay a minimum wage. So as far as the minimum wage, I don't think the federal government should ever enforce a minimum wage upon businesses and people. I think the free markets should set the wage that people are paid, because facts of the matter is I've worked with a lot of people and I've ran businesses as well. Everybody is not worth the same pay. Okay, they don't do the same job, they don't do the same quality of work, and I feel like people should get paid on their work ethic and what they do on their production, if it's a production job or what they do, and then they negotiate the pay that they are worth with the owner, with the boss, or whoever it is. And so I don't feel that a minimum wage should be in the discretion of a federal government.
I'll piggyback on that. I was actually about to comment on what Simone just said. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes.
Yes.
The issue
I like that, Simone. Yeah, definitely. Go ahead. Sorry, Madison.
Sure. The issue is that, especially in my district, there has been the lack of opportunities insofar as education. And I don't mean educating our youth or our young adults and sending them to the factories, what are now known as universities, and coming back with hundreds and thousands of dollars in debt, only to become debtor slaves for the rest of their lives. They need opportunities to be able to gain some true skill sets in trades and things of that nature so that they can become entrepreneurs. And trade simply doesn't mean electrician, welder, plumber. There's real estate, there's dental tech, there's all those different types of trades where you don't have to go spend 4 years in school, and so these are the things that really need to be pushed out to the people so that we can provide opportunities for people to actually get out and make a good living. Nobody wants to depend on a minimum wage. For what? Why would you care about a $15 an hour job where you can come right out with a professional certificate earning $50K? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with that, you have the opportunity to take that education even further, push it up another 10, 20K within the next couple of years. If you get more education, maybe go to TCC or some, if you're doing diesel mechanic, go to a diesel mechanic school or something like that, or apprenticeship. Then you're up in the 70s. So then you're saying screw the minimum wage. But what's happening with the Democrat Party is they're creating an atmosphere and an environment whereby people have to depend upon a big government. We want to shrink the government, scale back on the regulations, scale that lowers our taxes across the board, and give people opportunities to actually make their own money. When people are able to make their own money, to write their own checks, or to make a good wage, that 50, then they can buy their own. That gives a person the backbone and the spine, especially, for example, what we're going through today. If we had more people who were less dependent upon the government, more people would be saying, screw you. You're not going to be taking away our rights, so on and so forth.
So what about who had Matthew Sharp question? Would you both want another stimulus? And if so, what would that be?
We've spoken about this. Go ahead, James. I mean,
I don't think there should be another stimulus, because here's the fact of the matter is that the governor needs to just open back up Virginia. People need to get back to work. These small businesses need to be opened again. All people are essential. For the government to even state who's essential, who's not essential, and shut down certain businesses while businesses like Walmart and these China-owned businesses stay open is preposterous and absurd. As far as a stimulus, people are being bred to be lazy, are being made to be lazy off the stimulus. The longer they get free money, the longer they're going to want to sit. I mean, some people, that's on unemployment, they're getting $600 a week. That's more than what they made in their regular job. So of course, these people are going to want those programs to last longer and go long, because they make more money sitting at home on their butt. So no, I don't think there should be another stimulus. The governor needs to just open up. We need to get back to work.
And keep in mind, it's not free. We're going to end up paying for this. And the larger issue behind all of this is the fact that what they're doing is unconstitutional. It is a violation of the Virginia Constitution as well as the U.S. Constitution. Anytime you arrest people and prohibit them from progressing, and what we're dealing with right now is basically people are under house arrest. People have been arrested from being able to open up their businesses. Meanwhile, the government has given big banks, big corp, all the bailouts that they need. So all this under the guise of fear tactics and things of that nature. They screwed up from the beginning with the first stimulus. They're going to continue to screw that. They have a history. Congress has a history of screwing up insofar as bailing out the companies that don't need to be bailed out, period. No company is too large to fail. If a company is going to fail, let them fail, plain and simple. All right. But open up the government, stop violating the Constitution.
Andrew, is there any questions in the White Party? And do you have any?
No, there's not. Well, the last one by Conrad, he said Madison adding a 2, 3, 4 district team up, a Tidewater coalition, if you will, is good to hear.
Right.
So that was the only thing from the Watch Party.
Okay. One of the issues that we need to think about is in a representative is you don't want to send somebody to Washington that's going to only work for like 4 months out of the year. The work is not done. You need to cultivate the land. You need to be able to come back and work with the local politicians as well. You need to plow the field and make sure that you are still using the power of influence to influence the policies that will raise everyone's quality of life all across the district and even in the neighboring districts if possible. Keeping in mind that if you're a U.S. congressman, you're a congressman for every American. So what we're seeing, and I'm going to finish that real quick. What we're seeing right now, especially in our district, is a congressman basically who has been a beneficiary of the people, given the fact that he's been there for so long, as opposed to what is supposed to happen, and that is supposed to be the people being a beneficiary of his work and his power. And remember, power is the ability to influence others. And that's something he hasn't been able to do in Congress over the last 3 decades, given the fact that he's only been able to sponsor and pass 3 bills over the last basically 30 years. That's a very weak individual. You can't send someone there who just wants to get along to go along.
All right, man.
And I also think too, going back to what you was talking about earlier, even with the stimulus, and which is what I was agreeing with the sentiments of both of you, is that and I said this even before, it's just like the damage has been done and is being done, and it's just like when you look at what this it's not adding up for what the disease is doing, comparing it to earlier diseases. Coronavirus ain't doing a fraction of diseases that it's not even close.
Right.
And the world has never been shut down. 2 things. For one, we in America, it's amazing how you're seeing other foreign countries, though they seem to be back on the track, it's getting stuff together. But when they shut down, they really shut down.
Right.
Where America, let's be honest, we ain't really shut down yet at all. We did a halfway shutdown. And so look at what's happening. Our numbers are still increasing. And now we're going on 2 months with this thing. And it's still, they're talking about it's curbing or whatever else, whatever case may be. But the thing about the fact of the matter is if you stop people from working, there's monies that can never be recuperated. And we have yet to see the after effects of this. And I'm telling you, shutting the whole system down doesn't compare to what this coronavirus is doing. And in my personal opinion, it has never added up. Never added up.
Right.
Absolutely. And there are some states that didn't even shut down. You have South Dakota, you have Arizona, you have, I think, Iowa, Colorado, a bunch of states that shut down. They left it up to the citizens to do the right thing, I guess, to protect themselves if they needed protection. If they felt like they needed protection. And that's pretty much the way it should have been. I mean, because when you look at the numbers, like you said, it really don't add up. And when you look at the numbers overall, a majority of those numbers of deaths were in nursing homes and rehab centers and people, that was of higher
weakened immune systems.
Right.
Compromised immune systems and of higher risk, so it wasn't really the majority of the population, and those numbers are revealing such.
Right.
As well.
Let me take this opportunity also to clear up something too, because I don't want to. Maybe I failed to bring a balancing statement. I didn't want to demean or belittle what the coronavirus is doing. I'm just saying when you compare it to other viruses in the past, regardless of how many, when you look at all the deaths and even all the sicknesses, it don't even compare to what media and what this hysteria is making it. Now, I've known my aunt. You know, she was an 84-year-old woman in a nursing home. She contracted it. Glory to God, she's better now. I know personally 4 people personally who has contracted it, and they are all better now. But I also know people personally who they have had family members that has died from it. So I'm not belittling the effects of it. I'm just saying when you measure corona, it's amazing how we allow media to right now control us so much that if they say it's a big deal, we act like it's a big deal before we really look at the numbers in the past. When you look at 500 million deaths to the corona, whether it's even 1 million, like when you look at all that it's doing, I'm just saying, what reason should we give for putting everything on hold? Because I'm going to tell you this, whatever the coronavirus will do, ask ourselves the question, the ramifications of stopping society, when we really get to the point of real shortages where we could possibly get to where people can act like animals in the street, I'm telling you, the effects of that won't compare to the coronavirus deaths. And that's all I'm saying. It's not to belittle what the coronavirus is doing. I'm just saying put it in the perspective of what could happen when you shut down the economy.
Let's go with Jennifer Lee's question here. If elected, what priorities would you take to Congress? And anyone of y'all could go ahead and start off with that.
Well, one of my first priorities that I plan on taking to Congress is the pro 2A, Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment has been under attack for, ever since President Trump has been president, ever since the House has had the majority. So I'm definitely going to be taking a pro 2A stance and defending our 2A rights when I go to Congress. That's one of the main priorities. And of course, jobs. And of course, jobs for Americans. I'm an America First candidate. And so my priority is to be looking out for, one, the American veteran, get all the veterans off the streets, all the homeless veterans off the streets, and make sure our veterans are taken care of, making sure our elderly are taken care of, and making sure Americans have jobs first before illegals or before people that's on these visa programs.
Okay.
Ours is multifaceted. I mean, obviously, Constitution is first and foremost. When I first started speaking on 2A, everything that we're going through right now, I predicted it back, I think it was January 29th, in regards to violations against our Second Amendment, and the rest of our constitutional rights being violated, like they're being violated today. Second, obviously education, because the education piece ties into the economy. It helps us so that we can make sure that people have opportunities to earn a good wage. The other piece is going to be obviously being pro-life. We have basically babies being killed, slaughtered, all up and down. Anytime we have a governor that basically is saying that you can kill even a baby after he's been born, this is a problem. The other piece is tackling big pharma, opening up and health insurance. We have a plan for that. We want to roll these plans out so that our constituents can start taking a look at what we have written up and what we have in store. But we can't do that right now because we're still in the primary. But as soon as this primary is over, we want to roll these things out because we've already got plans in place. We've already gotten things written up, and we're going to hit the ground running.
Okay. All right. When it comes to gun laws, or so, okay, yeah, I see we lost Jarome Bell. He'll be back. What's your stance on that? So, are there going to be any new gun laws proposed in the past session of Congress that you will support?
Well, I'm definitely rescinding anything that goes against our Second Amendment right. The Constitution is very clear where it says shall not be infringed upon. So, as a matter of fact, not just with gun laws, any laws that are proposed or legislated by any legislator that is there is a violation of whether it be state or federal constitution, that legislator should be tried. And because that person is basically a traitor to our people. You do not send people to Washington or to Richmond to legislate against Constitution. It's wrong.
All right.
Violation of the oath.
Yeah. No, well, shall not be infringed was put into the Constitution for a reason, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. Andrew, do you have any questions? So, and is there any in the watch party?
No. Madison and Jarome, what's your positions on term limits for members of Congress?
That came out.
We actually differ on this a little bit. I mean, for various reasons.
Yeah.
The way that let's go back. I don't believe, this is my personal opinion, that the founding fathers meant for people to serve a lifetime in Congress or in Senate. When they developed this system, it was people that would go to Congress or go to Senate to represent the people for a short time, leave, and then go back and return to their families, and someone else take the place with them. And I'm a fond believer of that. I don't believe that a person in Congress or the Senate should spend 30 years in Congress. I don't think it should be a career. Now, and the way that the corruption has bred, we got lobbyists, we got, these big corporations, we have like Planned Parenthoods, we have all of these corporations putting money behind these candidates and these congressmen and senators, to where it's become a big corruption party, basically. So I am for term limits because of the way DC is ran now and because of the corruption. So yes, I'd be definitely for term limits.
Okay.
I'm leery on it because, just like when you are, how laws are created, basically laws are created. Say if you got a pendulum, right? And society is at a certain place in the middle of the swing, and they decide to come up with a law where the pendulum is there. You know what I mean? It's based upon public opinion. I think that the founding fathers put certain laws in place for a reason. That's like, should we debate on whether or not we should do away with the electoral college? A lot of people nowadays, they're saying yes. But if we did that, then what? California would basically would cancel out Ohio's vote. You know what I mean? So I think that, when you start to look into changing things such as that, you take away the responsibility and the authority of the people to be able to keep or place someone in position that they want. The people already have term limits. It's called the ballot. So that's my opinion on it. However, as a representative, it's the will of the people.
Which means we have to go out and vote, all right? And vote, competent leadership, not potential leadership that's scared to talk to people that they're trying to represent. Okay, that's where this whole situation is. And we know that some who follow those other two candidates are on here and wanted to ask damaging questions. But again, we are here to have a critical dialogue. And if you have intelligent questions, then ask them respectfully. All right. We know racism does exist in America. That's a part of American foundation, unfortunately. It is what it is.
Unfortunate that it's happening live in real time.
Like right now, yes.
So like right now.
Andrew, do you have any questions?
No, sir. You go ahead.
Okay, all right. I know this is going to come up, and this is a very touchy issue or so. But when it comes to gay marriages or so, how would you all deal with that?
I don't think it's a touchy issue at all. I mean, insofar as religion is concerned, I believe that marriage is between a husband and a wife. Insofar as the government is concerned, there are civil unions or there are marriages through a judge. My story is different. I've been married 23 years to the same lady. Only person I've ever been with. I prayed for her, and my prayer was answered. I have two beautiful daughters. I think that it is absolutely asinine to think that any legislator would go to Washington and use his position as a bludgeon to violate anybody's rights. So, people have the right to be with whomever it is that they choose to be with, so long as they're not infringing upon someone else's right.
Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna answer a question because that's a question in the chat. Because I don't want people sometimes to misconstrue, because listening is an art. Okay, yeah. Listening is an art. And I see William Jenkins. I'm going to answer your question. because it's directed at what I said. And so, and it says, there's nothing in the Constitution that say politicians can't serve in Congress. No, you're right. There is nothing in the Constitution. What I said was, it was my belief what the founding fathers thought. It was my belief. Okay, so no, you're right. There is nothing in the Constitution that says Congress cannot serve for a certain amount of time or for a lifetime. Because so don't misunderstand that. No one ever said that. I said it's my belief. That's what the founding fathers meant. My interpretation of what they meant. But you are right. The Constitution says they can serve for whatever. The only limits is the president of the United States. So let's be clear on that. And okay. So now to answer your question, I believe marriage is. I have a wife. I have a wife. I believe marriage is between one man and one woman. Basically like it says in the Bible. So people can live their life. See, I'm like, and that's why I like smaller government. People live their life; they can be happy. I believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If someone wants to marry someone else or someone of the same sex, whatever, that's on them. What do I believe? I believe marriage is between one man and one woman.
But see, here's the thing, though. When we have to, there's a world of a difference because. And this when it get to a point that where you have to do what's best for the people, even if the people don't like it. Here's what I mean. Because the reason why this is a good question, whether it's touchy or not, is because it is threatening. The core of the concept is threatening a certain group of people. And right. At the core, America is still trying to figure out how to marry these two worlds. But there's one world that's threatening the other world. And both worlds can't be happy. So when you really look at it, even let's take example the bathroom bill, the big thing in NC a couple of years ago. Okay, there's somebody who want to go to a bathroom, whatever bathroom they want to go to of their choice, even whether they was born or not. But the thing about it is that is infringing upon the rights of someone else. So even with gay marriage, whether we like, when you start trying to, because if you're going to let it in, you have to let it all the way in. And in letting it all the way in, now it's gonna create a thirst for the government to legislate the liberties when it comes to churches and what they believe. We've seen it happen already. So it's not like it's not an issue, and it's not like America and even government has a handle on the problem. So now government is faced with the issue, do we really give the people what they need and make folks upset? Or do we bow to the people and still try to figure out, which it never will be figured out because the two worlds won't be merged, how to make this happen?
Okay, so let me kind of expound on that a little bit. Since this is about faith and politics, Paul spoke once about separating the meat from the bone. There's a cliche that says there's such thing as apples and oranges. When you're talking about who a person decides that they want to marry, that has nothing to do with infringing upon someone else's rights. Now, when you are talking about someone who basically wants to enter into a restroom, or say a child, if you got children in school, right? And, should little boys be able to go into the bathroom with little girls? Then you are infringing upon someone else's privacy and their right. A union is a mutual thing. That's
not right. It's not only a mutual thing.
Yes, it is. A union is.
No, it's not.
You're talking about marriage, right?
Yeah, I'm not just talking about marriage. I'm talking about the legislation of allowing it to happen. That's when it's just more than a union.
I'm going to get there in a minute if you let me finish. Okay. A union is between two people because we were talking about marriage. Then you brought up something that was completely different. You're talking about perhaps someone maybe being a transvestite or something, or someone going into a different bathroom. That's apples and oranges. That's apples and oranges. And yes, it is.
Society told you it's apples and oranges, but go ahead, continue. I'll come back, but go ahead.
How is a marriage? What does that have to do with what bathroom I use?
Here's why. Because actually, now if you're going to take it from, if we can either go on a faith term, are we going on a faith term, or are we going on a legislative term? Because in a faith term, it's all labeled under uncleanness. So if you want to go on a faith term, and then if you want to go on a legislation term, here's a reason why it's dangerous and why it's threatening. Because when you let marriage in, you have to let it all the way in. So when you let it all the way in, the thing about it is that now the government has to figure out, because if it's going to be a marriage, I have to give those the same right to marriage that I give everybody else. And I am saying those are the worlds right there to whereas, and I didn't say it was the same thing, but I'm just saying trying to figure out how to legislate it is going to be problematic in the same degree because now government has to, what do we say government has been doing? Let me finish. What do we say government has been doing? We saying government has to do what? Govern affairs of all the people. Okay, so what government has to figure out is that if we let marriage in, we can't treat this marriage different than we treat anybody else's marriage. So if we can't, we have to figure out how do we give all of them all the liberties of marriage, because it's just not about the civil union, which is what I was talking about. We're just leaving it on the choice of the people, and those choice of the people, even with a heterosexual marriage, it ain't just between them.
I'm going to defend.
It ain't just between them. So that's what I was saying when I was saying it's not just between them.
It's about the law and it's about Constitution and what you're talking about. Then I'm going to defend someone's right if they're two women or two men to be together, because
you have to because you're a politician.
No, because it's the right.
You have to because of the 14th Amendment is right. It's the same equal protection under the law is in the 14th Amendment. So,
yeah, but not it. But here's the thing that's changed. Here's the thing that's changed with that. The thing that's changed with that is how we see that. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Okay. Am I agreeing that boys and girls should use the same bathroom? No, I'm not, because that's different. Because that in itself, could cause problematic things. Okay. Now, if a person has a separate bathroom that they want to use, separate from the other sex, then yeah, okay, they can use a separate bathroom. I don't think, and because we're talking about children here, okay, when you're talking about children, our job is to protect children. So when you're talking about putting boys and girls in the same bathroom or in the same locker room, or you're having genetically DNA boys playing girls sports, then no, that's wrong, because we're talking about children, because children are not making those decisions. These decisions are being made by adults, and it's the adults' job to protect these children from any situation that can harm them.
He's right. Whoever made that comment.
Here's the thing that you got to realize too. Look at how we in this world now compartmentalize. If you say it's about the children, do we not understand how the children suffer even under the same-sex union, psychologically and all those things? So it's not really. It's only about the children when government and when the general populace say it's about the children. And look at how we separated that. So it's just as about the safety of the kids, just in different ways, but still it's about kids' safety. But now because this is a federal agenda, that ain't about kids' safety anymore. When absolutely it is.
All right. Well, hey, let's move on to that. I mean, and those are good points that everyone has made here.
And right. Robert, let me answer you. I don't know, but we've been here for about doing this a little over a year. I don't care why you're here and why you're not here. Understand that we've been doing critical dialogue for a year or so. So if you don't like it, you can feel free to chime in. Or if you don't want to chime in, you can see these two gentlemen after the show is off. But we've been here and we're going to continue doing what we do. So sorry, you can't have your way on this one, but continue.
All right. Jennifer Lee says Hampton Roads has a large veteran population. Address the issues of the VA hospital, and that's a very good point right there.
Well, one of my goals is to help every veteran that has served in the military, whether it's to get off drugs, get off the street, housing, and of course the VA hospitals. I think President Trump has done an excellent job in putting laws in place and legislation in place to help the veterans and to clean up the hospitals. Now, they've been dysfunctional for years. So those policies is going to have time to take. It's going to take time to take place. Now, I will continue to do policy, to propose policy and legislation to continue to help clean up the veteran hospital, the VA hospitals, and also like President Trump did, he gave them the ability to go outside of the VA hospital, to go to commercial doctors or civilian doctors, as I probably should say, to civilian doctors, and not only get VA health care. But yes, one of the goals will be to completely clean up the VA hospital so that VA veterans can have safe places to go see doctors as well.
And on the programs, one of the things that we've done, we've already written programs that will aid veterans as far as PTSD, transition from civilian life to, from military life to civilian life. These programs need to be funded. people have gone and given, sacrificed their life so that people can pursue freedom, happiness, and when they decide to leave the service after whether it be 20 years or 4 years, they deserve to be able to transition back into society with, for example, if they have a certain MOS, that certificate, that training that they have should automatically transfer over into the civilian world. So as opposed to having them go back, recertify, spend extra money, fall into debt, so on and so forth. So.
Awesome. Well, hey, that leads into to Ben's question here. What policy specifically would you enact to improve care for veterans? We understand you want to help, but how specifically?
Prime example, Ben, one of the things I was just talking about was I'm working with a couple of buddies from Harvard. We've already put a program together that will aid veterans who are dealing with, for example, in this particular case, PTSD. Obviously the invisible wounds oftentimes are more damaging than the physical wounds. So we have implemented a program, and it is actually circulating around the country now, whereby we are helping veterans with PTSD. That's just one example.
And one of my examples, one of my things would be, because all veterans, unfortunately, aren't on TRICARE. Okay, one of my policies would be that every veteran that served will be able to be on TRICARE. And what that does, that lets them get seen at any MTF to where they don't have to go to the VA hospital. And also, if you're on TRICARE Prime, sometimes TRICARE Standard, if they have the means to pay, then they can go outside and see a civilian doctor. So they're not locked into the VA. And that way they can see specialists. They can see mental health specialists if they need to. They can get dental, and they can get eye exams. So they can get all of the healthcare services they need. So I would push for a policy to where every veteran will have the same benefit as like somebody on Congress or somebody that served in the military that was on TRICARE.
All right, awesome. Robert asked, Madison, what do you consider Scott's major weaknesses, and how will you use them against him?
Well, I think that there are plenty of them, Robert. His major weakness is apathy. If you take a look at what's happening in Portsmouth and Newport News, we have gentrification taking place. He's completely forgotten about the people. He has sponsored something like 235 bills over the last 30 years, and he has not had the power of influence to convince any of his colleagues to get anything through, except for maybe two. And I think one of them, maybe three, and one of them was maybe the renaming of a building. Maybe it was a mail post office or something like that. So what we have in our district, all across the district, is we have the lack of opportunities. We have dilapidated buildings. We have old people or our elderly in certain positions, certain segments of our district that have to travel across town in order to get the medical attention that they need. There are a plethora of different areas that I've spoken to plenty of people all over the district who are ready for a change. The only difference is they're just not going to trust anybody to make that change. And so that's definitely something that I'd love to sit down. I know who you are. I'd love to sit down and talk to you more about. But listen, it's not just one major weakness. It's in broad daylight. It's all over the place. People are ready for a change. They're ready for opportunities. People need help. People need to be able to make money. The economy has been abysmal over the last 15 to 20 years. Wages have been lagging behind the rest of the country for the last 15, 20 years. Unemployment basically we didn't see a rise in unemployment until Trump became president. During the Obama era, not until right at the end of the Obama era, but especially when Trump became president, that's when you saw the unemployment rate start to drop. Okay, so even, he has no excuse, because even when there was a Democrat president, he still wasn't doing a good job. So when you go back and you look at his record and you dissect the man and you look at his work, it is abysmal. When you go outside, if I look outside my window and I see dilapidated buildings, it's an abysmal. It's blatant. It's a scarlet letter all over the district, Robert. Hopefully that answers your question.
And Robert, we did have King. I just want to give this comment real quick on the other side. That was one that came up. King said, I am watching from Seattle, Washington, and I thank you both for your superb leadership.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you, Kane. Appreciate it.
And real quick, Robert, to your earlier question that yes, this was advertised as a debate. It was, but the other two candidates were afraid to come on here because they didn't want to talk to black folks. And again, I'll just leave it as that. All right.
And a debate on critical dialogue is not the same debate as it would be on NBC. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Exactly. Do you believe we should have private and public partnerships or have more of those?
And in reference to what? Is that business, economic, public, private partnerships? Is that what she asking?
Okay, so we'll come back to that. Yes, Simone, answer that question for us if you can. William Jenkins says, what are your guys' stance on Social Security and Medicare? He knows the Republicans in the Senate stance on it.
All right. Well, as far as my stance on Social Security, I think Social Security should be refunded. Should be funded and refunded immediately because the money was stolen out of the Social Security account. It used to be, when we were putting into Social Security, it wasn't in the general fund. They decided, and it was the Democratic Party, decided to take that money and put it in the general fund and decided to spend it to where now the Social Security has become nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. People that's working now are paying for people that are retired when that money should already be there. So that money needs to be refunded back to the people and put back into the Social Security fund specifically, for those people who put into it. And as far as Medicaid go, if there's people that cannot work, disability, for some reason they cannot work and they cannot find health insurance, then that's what Medicaid should be for the elderly, for people. So yes, Medicaid still needs to be funded to a source, to a point, if people can't get Medicare. Now I don't believe that healthcare is intrinsic, just like food isn't. Okay, but I also understand that there are people in the United States because of the years of giving people things that they need healthcare. So Medicaid still needs to be funded for certain people.
Yeah, go ahead. Or
you did have something else in the watch party. Did you want to go there now?
Let him answer it, and then we'll go there to the watch.
I agree with what he said insofar as Social Security, it needs to be funded and left alone. I don't think that money should be being taken away from what this is what people earned. Leave it alone. Insofar as healthcare is concerned, we're going to have to. I believe that we need to start scaling back on Obamacare and replace it with the Healthcare Service Insurance Tax or the HSIA. Basically, it establishes that American citizens will have an account open designated to them upon first recordable earnings. Basically, it's transferable. What they earn, you can transfer it to your descendants, for example. It opens up the doors for competition, lowers premiums, lowers rates. As it stands right now with Obamacare, you can't, it was based on the premise of a lie, starting from keep your own doctor. Then it's everybody fits into the same cookie cutter box. Someone, maybe you have a young man who is paying the same premiums for maybe someone who has issues with, female issues. It's not catered to the individual. So certainly, I have a plan that's written out, and that's something that I want to put out there, but definitely do away with the Obamacare.
Gotcha. All right. Andrew, go to the watch party, and then we'll go back.
Jacqueline, thank you so much for watching. She says, do you still support all that President Trump has stood for, or his lack of leadership on some issues? I vote Democrat, but don't agree with abortion or legalizing same-sex marriage. Can you say there are some things you don't agree with as well concerning the Republican Party?
All right. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, in layman's terms, are they asking if we are basically drones for party? Is that what it's saying? Are we agreeing with any and everything that another person does?
Yeah, it says, do you still? Yeah, that's I mean, yeah, I vote Democrat, but I don't agree. Yeah, because I think breaks down the way you. Yeah.
Here's my response to that. I support President Trump. I like President Trump. There's some things that he does and says that I don't agree with, and there's some things that he doesn't say that I do agree with. I appreciate the fact that he speaks his mind. I appreciate the fact that he doesn't allow the media to write a false narrative, basically based off of what he's thinking. I think that it is ridiculous to think that anyone in a leadership position who is a real leader would just arbitrarily agree with another human being 100% across the board. That is not what you want in any leadership position. And hopefully that answers your question.
Right. Brother Jarome, did you want to?
Well, you can never agree with a person 100%. Do I support President Trump? Absolutely. Do I agree with the policies that he has put forth to help the American people? Absolutely. So I stand by those policies that he has put forth. Now, are there things that he has done where I don't agree? Yes. I don't think he went far enough when he came up with his immigration moratorium. I think it was watered down when he had that meeting with Tim Cook. I don't think it went far enough. I think that needs to be expanded. So that's just an example of where I don't agree with something that he did. So I hope that answers your question.
And I think too that question comes as a result, and I agree with you both. I think it comes as a result of a bigger picture of what we're seeing, especially in the African American community, because it's like we want to make sure that we have sense for Republicans to separate what they do or don't like about Donald Trump. But when it's reversed on the other end, there's more of an alignment that we don't call an accountability to the carpet on the Democratic side.
Right.
And it just seems to be that it can't be that when we don't like something and we just want to pick it apart, or we want to ask them to pick it apart when it's on another side, and especially as Black Republicans or whatever the case may be, because when they look at the Democratic Party and when we want to talk about, just like I've heard Madison and even Mr. Bell said for the first time tonight, like, don't vote for me just because I'm this, that, and the third, but look at policy. But It's amazing how on the Democratic side, a lot of people, or especially quote unquote Democratic Christians, it's a lot of stuff that they said that they don't line up with, but they still voted because it seems like they're lining more up with the traditional trajectory versus then, you know what I'm saying? And so it seems to be like a overarching issue, you know what I'm saying, more so than not.
All right. This goes back to Simone's question. Yes, you were talking about partnerships with private sectors and works with the governments to get things done.
Yes, absolutely. That's what the opportunity zones are about right now. Is the private sector getting with the government to get things done in the underprivileged communities and some of the Black and Latino communities in the urban cities. So yes, I believe that is a good thing and can be effective. But now I would take that a step further. When those things happen, okay, those private sectors then should reach down into those public communities, okay, to give those people jobs where they are putting those businesses at, to make sure that the people in those communities are able to thrive and take care of themselves and take care of their community. It does no good for them to partnership with the government, put in businesses in there, and then bring in foreign workers or bring in outside workers to work it. And then the Black community still suffers because there are no jobs and there's no sense of ownership in those communities. So I think that needs to go a step further and reach down to the community to make sure that they have an effort in there as well.
Hey, let me just piggyback on that a little bit. Let me give you an example of what we're going to look at, what that might look like. We know that there's going to be something like $30 million coming in Newport News, another $30 million going into Portsmouth. What that looks like insofar as partnerships is we want to make sure that there's equity of contract. That means that we don't want to see just these big corporations getting all the contracts. We want to see the small businesses being able to reach in and get a piece of that money. So a large part of those partnerships and what's been missing across the board, across the third, is just that, the equity of contracting. Make sure that that is spread out, throughout all the different small businesses. And I know there's a procedure for getting all that, but we just want to make sure that takes place. We know that a lot of times that has not taken place, and I've seen it personally. So good to go.
Awesome. All right.
And I think real quick too, Ron, in mentioning what you brought up with Simone. With Simone, I think it's good to know that she's absolutely right concerning the Black independents. But we was talking about those who are lock and step Democratic, not the Black independents. We do know that there's a set group, and they would be different from. I wouldn't consider them Democrats. I wouldn't consider them Republicans. But we were talking those who are in lockstep with the Democratic Party.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Matt said to help reduce health care costs, would you support health insurance being sold across state lines?
Absolutely, because it opens up the competition. We need more competition. That's going to drive down the premiums. All these regulations is a result of this. Is the government is too big. We need to open it up, open the borders. And speaking of state borders, then I'm not talking about borders. State borders. Open up the competition, so that we can drive down, more competition, then we're competing over prices. Oh, I'm going to pay you a unit just $50. Okay, well, $45 over here. Same quality. Absolutely.
It's just economics 101. It's supply and demand, and so the more supply you have, the demand. So it's going to drive the cost down, and that's actually one of the things that I have in my healthcare plan, and that's repealing state laws which prevent insurance companies from competing across state lines is what you'll see in my healthcare plan. And so, yes, definitely we have to be able to compete across state lines. And not only that, I would even venture to say, and sometimes in Canada, because you may be able to get drugs cheaper in Canada than you can here in the United States because of the pharmaceutical, company. So, but definitely across state lines. Yes.
Awesome. Great question there. So again, well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Fellas, how much time do you all have?
I'm here as long as you want me to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We wanted to take your.
Yeah, I can do probably about 15 more minutes or so. It's actually, I haven't eaten dinner yet.
Okay, man. All right. Well, yeah. In 15 minutes, we're going to wrap this up. Joshua Mitchell has a question. How do you plan to help the LGBT community with the new discrimination law in place?
I'm not sure what you mean by help the LGBT community with the new discrimination law. If it's a law in place, then there's nothing that I don't think they need help. I mean, if you're asking, are we supporting or do I support the LGBT community, as a whole, I'm not, I believe, like say, a marriage is between a man and a woman. I'm not, I'll tell you what, here's my issue with the LGBT community as a whole. They try to forward their agenda using the 14th Amendment, okay? And, I'm a historian, and so I understand that the 14th Amendment was a Black right. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were Black rights, okay? Right. Those were issued because slaves didn't have any rights, okay? So for any group of person, you can, LGBT community, La Raza, or whoever, even the anchor babies that come across the United States, the ladies that come across the United States to have babies, so they're citizens. That's wrong. That's using the intent of the 14th Amendment in a wrong way. So I have a problem with any group that pushes their agenda using the 14th Amendment when that was not the intention.
Well said. I like that. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that's it. I mean, you're going to have a hard time trying to abuse the 14th Amendment in the Black community. That's just where it is. We want to make sure that everybody has equal rights. Obviously, we know what that's like, not to be treated or to be treated like second-class citizens. Now, if I really understood exactly where people were not being treated equally, so I need help with that. Help me out. But certainly, it's the goal to make sure that every citizen has equal rights.
Gotcha. Jacob says, why can't Republicans help fix Obamacare instead of wanting to get rid of it?
But I can tell you that, because what's happening is there are better ways in order to get health care to people. We're not saying, like for my plan, it is scaling back on it until we replace it. It's not like, okay, we're going to kick you off of any type of health care. We would never do that, but we do know that, there are better ways to make sure that people have access to good health care. The other piece that a lot of people don't look at insofar as health care, and the Black community knows this good and well, that there are two basically health systems in America. There's one for the haves and the ones for the have-nots. So we want to be able to bridge that gap. And so there's a lot more to look at insofar as that's concerned. And I look forward to that discussion.
Okay. Ron, we did have a question too over on the other side. It says, Jarome and Madison, what are your plans for education? Do you agree with school choice? Why or why not?
Good.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big supporter of school choice. And like Madison stated earlier, I'm also a big supporter of trades being in every school, not having just a trade center, but having trades in every single school so that every student has the opportunity to have those trades without having to be traveled across the city and people and not having a slot available. It should be available in schools. And yes, school choice, and not school choice because of let's say bad schools, because my thing is no school should be bad. No school should be underperforming to where a parent want to remove a kid from that school. School choice to me is if a parent wants to take their kid to like a private school or a Catholic school or a Christian school or something of that nature, then yes, then there should be ways for those parents to be able to do that and get them out of a public school, but not specifically because a school is failing, because no school should be failing children.
I agree. I like that, definitely, because we used to have it back in the day. And then
Yeah, that's right.
All right, Jesse. Hey, you have a good, intelligent question here that you've been. So, what are those better ways to make healthcare available? I get the intention, but you don't seem to have any specifics on legislation. Could you elaborate?
Sure, Jesse, I can do that. You have the motion to establish or right to try as the 20th Amendment. Elimination of taxpayer funding for Planned Parenthood is another thing. Legislation that establishes abortion, doing away with abortion beyond the first trimester. Enforcement of federally mandated medical pricing transparency, using taxes or regulations to facilitate free market competition and expedited business development within medical insurance and healthcare provider sectors. So there are, and that's just a part of the plan that we have.
Gotcha.
Does that answer that question? And can I go back to the education piece?
Yes, go ahead.
That was a got you question from a person. Anyway, insofar as education is concerned, I've been an educator for a long time. I'm an educator now. I believe in a student-centered approach. Insofar as education and school choice, yes, I believe in school choice. And for the same reason that Jarome said, it's not because we may have certain schools that are not accredited. We want every school to be accredited, but certain schools may have certain programs across the district. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that there's vocational technology education in every high school, not just regional, but we want it all across every high school. Okay. What this does is it enables a student to be able to graduate with a professional degree along with a diploma. And not only that, they're able to go directly into the workforce, making a good livable wage, 40, 50K. The other piece that we've done is as far as education, and just like the medical plan that we wrote up, I wrote a plan basically for an alt school district. And this works for parents who basically want to pull their kids completely out of, say, a public school environment. And what it does is it not only creates a system whereby students, say if they have special needs or, whatever the special need may be, it may be a person that maybe is mentally challenged, it may be a students that are gifted, whatever the case. We will be able to rewrite social services. We will be able to create a system whereby we are creating more jobs. We're bringing in through. So what people don't understand is, for example, you have students that oftentimes fall by the wayside and they are disenfranchised. These students end up a lot of times getting in trouble with courts and things of that nature. What happens with that is because they're truant, they end up going to court. They end up seeing a judge. Oftentimes, maybe they end up with a guardian ad litem, or they're ordered to have counseling to deal with whatever the issues are that cause them, according to the courts, to be whatever the disenfranchisement might have been. So they end up under FAPT and so on and so forth. So the system that I wrote takes those sorts of monies and helps the communities out. It returns the autonomy to the community, takes it away from the municipalities. It brings in no less than, say, if you had a school with maybe 500 students, that's not a lot of students, and you establish this across the 7 cities, you're bringing in no less into the communities to help out with the economy, no less than somewhere around $750 million. And these numbers are conservative and they are fact-checked. And actually, I wrote this plan for Newport News, I want to say back, I think it was 2017, was hired to be a dean, but then was offered, more money in another area. So I took it a different way. But we have plans ready in the same manner that we do, for Medicare.
All right, awesome. John, Mr. Bell, we want you to answer that question because I know you got to go, and then we got one last question for you. Yeah, go ahead.
What was that question again? Repeat that.
Concerning the education piece, right? With
I actually answered it first, I thought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Real quick. Man, I lost my place here. Reform here. Do you think we need to reform FISA?
I think the FISA courts need to be abolished. They're illegal. I think there should be no secret courts in the United States. That's what we have grand juries for. I think, as you can see, with FISA courts, they can be abused. So absolutely, FISA courts need to go away. I would not reform them. I will get rid of them.
Okay, gotcha.
Prime example of violation of our constitutional rights, FISA courts. So, no-fly zones. There are a plethora of different laws that are already in effect where Americans didn't realize that their Fourth Amendment rights were already being violated. So that's just an example of one.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Jarome, real quick, tell the people why they should vote for you. So in this election, and pretty much how they get in contact with you.
Okay, well, my website, you've been posting it up there, JaromeBellForCongress.com. That's how they can get in touch with me the best way. And I think the main reason people should vote for me is because, hey, I'm an America First guy. Everybody that knows me, everybody that has followed my campaign know that I stand up for the people, whether it's babies on March for Life Day, whether it's the 2A at Lobby Day, or whether it's reopening Virginia at the rally we had at Virginia Beach. Jarome is going to be there for the people. I'm an outsider. I'm not a politician. Okay, let's make that clear. I'm an outsider, just like President Trump was, and I'm a fighter. And if people want a fighter and they want they want a person that's going to represent all the people in the district, earlier, people said that there are disenfranchised people everywhere. I spoke to a gentleman where up in Pocosin, where they actually vote 85% Republican regardless. He said, you know what, we're forgotten because they don't even come up here and talk to us, So, and I went up there and spoke with them. So there are people that, they get left behind on both sides of the aisle. So I want to I'm the one that can actually reach out to those people, whether it's independents or conservatives in the Black community, or independents and conservatives in the white community. So I believe that I'm the best candidate to be able to bridge us all together.
Awesome. And I think Joshua, he probably answered that question there. So that's why I posted it. So, and we definitely wish you best of luck to you there, sir.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. I appreciate your audience questions. They had some, for the most part, they had some great questions. You know, and I appreciate being a part of this on short notice, because I know this was supposed to be a 3rd district debate, and we pretty much turned it into a town hall. You know, I think it was pretty successful, and thank you guys for inviting me.
Thanks for being on and spending the time with us tonight, Mr. Bill. Appreciate that. Thank you so very much.
Sir, definitely.
All right, you guys have a good night, okay?
All right, you too. Again, JeromeBellForCongress.com. Go ahead and look at his policies. Again, you know, let's go for change, regardless of who's in office. So let's go for change for a better America. All right. Also, guess Mr. Madison Downs. All right. Hey, how much time you got left?
I've got time.
Sure. Okay.
Well, let's wrap it up at 10:30, Ron, because we don't want to rush on. We'll wrap it up at 10:30.
Again, we want to thank you so much for coming on here. If anybody got any questions for you, okay, Jesse says, I would appreciate if Madison answered Catherine's question. So, again,
I didn't see the question.
Yeah, I didn't see the question. Oh, she said, do you believe in that no fly zone should exist?
No, I think that no-fly zones should not exist. I mean, I think that there are certain areas, you know, like around the nation's capital, but I don't agree with it.
Gotcha. All right. Andrew, any other questions in there?
No, not over in the watch party. It's just
okay.
Nothing.
Again, if y'all have any questions, we have just Madison on. We were supposed to have a debate, but that didn't go as planned because the other 2 candidates backed out, which is totally unfortunate.
A question that was up there, something about policies, what makes my policies
okay. Yes.
Joshua Mays. Thanks, Joshua, for that question. What policies proposals distinguish you from the other candidates? Well, you know, we all have been going around to various Republican committee meetings and espousing our policies. You know, my policies have been pretty sound all the way through. We're talking about education insofar as VOTEC and school choice. We're talking about, first and foremost, protecting our constitutional rights. We're talking about being pro-life. We're talking about creating competition to lower healthcare costs and premiums and costs for medications. We're talking about helping out our veterans and their transition and funding veteran programs, tiny homes, things of that nature. You know, and the other issue, insofar as aside from the policies, is I think we see tonight that there's only one candidate who is willing to speak to all the people, no matter where they are. I mean, it's evident after tonight. There's no message for, you know, my policies are universal. They help everyone out, you know, but there's no plan for the minority community. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that the most of the district is minority. And, you know, I'm here, they are not. And good luck with that, with those two. You decide to go that route.
Basically, they don't want to hear what you got to say, pretty much. Because if they did, then they would have been here. And actions always speak louder than words. I don't care what else, you know, what false accusations that you might claim and try to impugn somebody's character. But Madison, do you want to address what Jesse says, or do I just go ahead on and move forward?
If it's respectful.
Okay.
She asked for a stance on birth control. That's respectful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, we can't, you know, we gotta. And I mean, sometimes when we talk about critical dialogue, you gotta address. Sometimes you gotta address stuff that, you know what I'm saying, is hard. So,
we have having a discussion, and we're not dealing with any personal attacks. And
right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff up here that's not a personal attack that I mean, there's some stuff that may be uncomfortable to talk about. Pretty much gotta go ahead and talk about.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse, for that question. About birth control. You know, I'm a father of 2 daughters. My personal belief is I don't like birth control. I think it's a part of the whole pro-life, being pro-life. There are so many issues connected to birth control. However, I am not a woman. So, I can only go by my experience from what I've seen. For example, I have a daughter who is the same age as you, Jesse, and she was home over the holidays, and had just begun taking a contraceptive. And when a month later, that particular contraceptive developed blood clots in both of her lungs and almost killed her. And so we rushed her to the hospital, saved her life. And after all the diagnoses had come back, we had discovered that it was a direct result of the coagulant, which is what caused the blood clot. We also know that these birth control pills are also being pushed on our minors, insofar as is that something? Would you mind not doing that while I'm talking? We know that birth control is being pushed on minors. And what I mean by that is here is where the legalities come into place. And this is not a personal issue for that person that just asked the question. Birth control, it should be illegal for birth control to be pushed on children without parental consent, like they're doing, and like the policies that have been set in place where they're pushing birth control on children as early as middle school.
Crazy.
That would be illegal.
Crazy.
This is critical dialogue. So, you got the totality of my question there. I don't like it. When a person is of age and they're able to take that of their own volition, then that is their personal, decision to make. But insofar as if I'm a father and I've got minor children, the government needs to keep their hands off my children.
Agreed, definitely. All right. Okay. Pretty much
Man.
wrap this up here soon. Is there anything in the question in the chat room there? In the watch party, please make sure we get everybody there.
No, we have a comment that's encouraging. Mr. Downs, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your direct counseling of myself and my family for the last 7 years, helping me both spiritually and professionally.
Oh, you're welcome. I don't know who that was. I help a lot of people, but you're very welcome.
Awesome. Again, why should folks vote for you? Why you feel you are the right person for this, for the 3rd district? Somebody who's coming on here that may just are undecided in their vote.
Well, I think that I'm bringing policies that are universal to all the people throughout the district. I'm willing, obviously, to speak to whomever and wherever they are, and reach them exactly where they are in their station. I'm willing to have the dialogue and the debate as long as it's respectful. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to, and my policies are sound. I'm bringing policies to people in order to help them to become less dependent upon big government. We're going to lower our taxes. We're going to create job opportunity. We're going to create opportunities for people to get out and actually make a good livable wage. We're creating better systems within education, with school choice. We're protecting our constitutional rights, which is first and foremost. I don't think that there's another candidate running in the district who has experience defending people's constitutional rights or helping and advocating for people and defending them from overarching municipalities. There's no one else in the district that's running that has that experience. So I think that it's a pretty simple choice to make, but I do hope that everyone would go to my website and learn more about me, and that's www.madisonforhamptonroads.com, or I'm on Facebook, and that's Madison Downs for Congress, and on Twitter, it's @MD4Congress, and you can learn more about me.
Awesome. Andrew, any last words there?
Nope, just thank everybody for watching Critical Dialogue on tonight, as we had, I guess, a political discussion and not a debate or, what have you. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Robert.
For watching. And yeah, everybody for for watching and everything like that. But just know it, what not only did it not go as planned as intended because of the back out, but there again, it wasn't. I mean, I know sometimes we can get wrapped up in our expectation of a thing. And so sometimes we can get cornered by our expectation of a thing that someone didn't agree to. And I would just remind everybody out there that some of the things that can rob the best of relationships, the best of concepts, is unrealistic expectations. And so I just wanted to remind everybody of that thing. And I thank everybody that came on tonight. Also, Madison Downs for being his second time on here with us. Thank you so much for, your policies and pours and stuff like that, and as well as Mr. Bell, who had to go. So thank you all so much for the opportunity. And also get my new book. This is a Christian show. Get this Christian book. The New Age Vernacular. It is on Amazon. It is available on Lulu. And what it is, a crust of even a lot of problems that we're facing. The underface of it all is that we allow government and media to change our definitions on concepts. And all of us haven't begun to realize how we have gone in a zigzag over the past couple of decades because of the media we watch and the world around us. It's hard to stay consistent in inconsistent times. And that is a concept of some things that I go over in the book to let us have freedom of thought to look at concepts the way they should instead of being led to and fro by every wind of society. So again, thank you. My name is Andrew Crawley. Getting my new book, The New Age Vernacular. And come on and watch us Friday as we would dive into chapter 5, Jesus Hung Out with Sinners.
Again, thank you all so much for joining us. Again, we will thank the two candidates, fine young gentlemen here that I believe that will provide great leadership. So, Madison Downs, thank you again. Looking forward to if you ever wanted to come back on or so. We wish much blessings and success to you. And for those out there, hey, every Tuesday night is right here, Critical Dialogue. We talk about controversial issues and we tackle it from a biblical perspective. So things that you were afraid to ask in church or so, hey, you could ask them here. All right. Thank you to everyone else who tuned in and gave some great questions. So, all right, again, there are no enemies here. We're all Americans, and let's learn to live in peace and learn to respect one another. Okay. All right. Well, hey, you all, and also remember, you matter in the kingdom of God. So don't compare yourself or your ministry to anyone else out there. Just do what God has called you to do, and you'll be just fine. Okay. God bless you.